Right, so we are back with the podcasts. Finally, I had a break from them in the summer, and then I had a break in my arm. So they stopped for a while, but we're back again, and this is podcast number 9, and it's a really exciting podcast today because I've got a good friend of mine and our colleague from Valencia on the podcast, and as you can see, we are using some new software as well. So first of all, I'm going to apologise for my NAF technical skills. But today we're going to have Kosta. Kosta, just to explain, has been working with us, I think, for about 4 years now, and he's helping us or managing the stage 2 process for a lot of our non-lucrative visa clients up in Valencia. He also works himself as a lawyer up there, doing all the extranjeria, foreigners office business, and he's also very passionate about immigration, as we are here at Upsticks. So the problem is when we do talk, we don't stop. So we're going to have to try and keep this short, but it may go on for hours. But anyway, let me introduce you to Kosta. Hey, Kosta.
Hey, Chris. Hey, everyone. It was a very nice introduction. Thanks, really.
Well, it's been fun. I think the first time we met was, the only time we met actually was in person, was in Alicante, wasn't it?
That's correct. That's correct. I think it was last November. I think
last November.
Yeah,
it was good. I think we both. So when you work inside an industry, I think it's when you need to let off steam about certain things. It's nice to talk to somebody who's going through the same thing.
Of course. If you find a comrade from the trenches, it's really easy to relieve yourself from the stress.
Yeah, and also compare notes and stuff like that. So that's what we do quite a bit. Apart from obviously we work as well. We have a lot of clients in common, and the good thing is when Kosta's reach is all the way down to Andalusia because he has us here, and evidently our reach is all the way up to Valencia because we've got Kosta and his team there. But first of all, just talking about Valencia before we get started on today's subject, which I have to say, I haven't even said what the subject is. We're going to be talking about the new immigration law and how it affects the non-lucrative visa renewals. But before that, how's things in Valencia? What's going on now?
Oh, everything's good. If you're talking about the floodings and Dana, in life in the city is more normal now. Mm-hmm. You don't see the fed up faces from people working in businesses. I think they've kind of learned to deal with that psychologically. But still, if you were to go there, right? By the way, I'm not that far from where it hit the most.
Yeah.
You would see that it's still bad, and it's a work in progress. I'm expecting actually to see the big results, because now you see some streets being cleaned out in some cities, but I'm expecting to see the big changes probably around next March or April.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be, there's still a lot of stuff, a lot of work to do up there. Yeah. And but what we'll do is we'll probably, to be honest, if I can get you on again, we'll probably do a Valencia podcast as well. Just a lot of people have been asking me about the differences between Malaga and Valencia and what happens. So it might be worth us catching up and having a chat about that and helping people really let them know. So that's another subject. Anyway, on to today's. And we do want to keep Valencia also in the news a little bit. I always mention it on my weekly updates because you know what it's like. A disaster happens and we just move on to the next one, don't we, in the news?
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm mostly happy about really is that all of our clients who live in these areas are okay. All of them confirmed okay. And apart from a few minor damages to their gardens, there's really not anything else to be concerned about. Health-wise, they're all good. And yeah, this is what gave me most comfort within the first few days, because I reached out, I think, to all of my clients whom I know that they live in these areas. Yeah. And some, after a long while, simply because there was no internet or any type of connectivity, got back to me and told me, "Hey, Kosta, we're all good. Thanks for checking in." So it kind of gave me, made me feel better. But still, it is a lot of a lot of work still left over there.
Yeah, the sense of community really came through, didn't it? So,
oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. This is a very good example of solidarity, really.
It really is. It is. But anyway, let's talk about now what we're the main subject. Now, hopefully, I'll be able to work this software okay and show you what we're talking about. But as we know, it was what date was the law passed? The 24th, was it? The Thursday 20th? Remind me.
I would say 20th, yeah.
The 20th, that was it. The 20th.
Which is Wednesday.
And comes into force in the 20th of May next year. So we're talking about the new immigration law.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things which was on YouTube a lot was the renewal of the non-lucrative visa, because there was some proposed changes. So what we're going to chat about today is basically we're going to look at the Article 64 from the law, which is what we've got in front of us. We've also put a translation on there as well. And we're just going to have a chat, give our opinion on what we think is going to happen on the 20th of May and how people's renewals are going to be approached. And the good news is that there hasn't been that many changes, has there, to the renewal?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. That's actually it was very comforting for me to actually see that not a lot was changed with the non-lucrative visa renewal.
So anyway, so first of all, this is an extract from the article. As I say, I've got it there in English as well. But this is one point that I wanted to bring up, which you immediately brought up when we first spoke about this. And if you look at point 1, it says foreign nationals wishing to renew their temporary residence permit must apply for the competent immigration office for processing within 2 months prior to the expiration date of the current permit.
Yeah,
2 months.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is no. Go ahead.
So 2 months. So that's very ambiguous, because what you tell us, what did it say before?
Well, currently in the law that it's in force today, it says 60 days before, and normally people would make this. Just say 60 days, 2 months, the same thing. Well, it really isn't. In Spanish administrative law, 60 days before and 2 months before are 2 different things. And you have to be very careful, especially if you want to work around the margins. It's very important when you work around the margins. Other than that, if you pick like somewhere around the middle, just to submit your renewal paperwork, which I recommend, obviously, then that wouldn't be an issue. But yes, the wording changed, and for people who really want to rush their renewal and submit it the first possible day, now they should actually factor that in. And obviously, for people who have not prepared everything and want to go and submit on the last possible day, of course, it is the day when the TIE expires.
So we've got here this is the original. This is what's in force now, basically, and you can see that it actually says 60 and 90. It's in Spanish, 60 and 90 natural days. Mm-hmm. Whereas the very first thing, as you say, that were from the current new one that's been brought into force, it says 2 months. So what happens then? 2 months? Is it a shorter placement in February when there's only 28 days then, or?
Yeah. Well, in Spanish administrative law, when you count, if it's in months, then it's date to date. Right. If it's days, you have to count. You have to open the calendar, count the days behind. Luckily, when people contact professionals, for us it's very simple to determine when that day is, because once you've done 100 or so, it's pretty standard. So you know how to count 1 day plus 1 day or minus 1 day, depending on. If February is somewhere in the middle in the mix, you have to factor that in. If it's a leap year, if it's not a leap year, so
it's February, it could be even shorter than 60 days.
It might, yeah. So I have to. It's very specific. So again, my recommendation stands: contact a professional if you have any doubts about the renewal in general, and rely on the knowledge provided by professionals.
Yeah, I mean, the calculation, most of the time, I mean, you've got a huge window, haven't you? 5 months to get it in. Let's call it 5 months. But it's not really 5 months. It's 2 months when they like you to submit it. And you've got this allowance of 3 months afterwards.
Mhm.
You know, really, if you don't want to be submitting after expiry if you can help it. I know that recently, I don't know about you there in Valencia, but here in Malaga, and especially Andalusia, with certain banks, we were having lots of problems with the banks with people with expired cards, and the banks are saying, we want your new card now. They're warning people before it's even expired, because the banks are obviously controlling the paperwork that they have. And, you know, immigration doesn't understand the banks doesn't understand immigration, you know, so we're sending people in with resguardos saying, no, there you go, you've got your card approved. And the banks go, no, we just want to see the card. And so it just doesn't work like that.
Well, our solution is actually in your previous picture that you posted here in between.
Yeah.
We always relied on whatever's in the law, and the law currently states that once you've submitted your application, your resident status is continued until a definitive resolution is given. That's pursuant to the current regulations. So we usually, what we do in these scenarios, and always upon requests from clients, we prepare an email which pretty much cites the law that states that even though you have an expired TIE, your current resident status in Spain is in force simply because you've submitted your application for a renewal. Some banks have stopped asking any extra questions. They just said, all right, fair enough. When you have the new TIE, show it to me, please, ASAP. So far, I would say we found a nice solution to this one. And knock on wood, it's been going all right for our clients.
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's down to the director of the bank. But yeah, we've had lots more people telling us that they're having problems with their banks. But anyway, going on to this point 2. So anyway, point 2 of the law, going on to point A. So yes, so point 2, to renew temporary non-lucrative visa permit, the foreign national must meet the following requirements. Is what they need to meet. So number A, be a holder of a valid temporary non-lucrative residence permit, okay, or be within the 3-month period following expiry. So that's what we're relating to before. So they've given us now, where before it stated 60 days before or 90 days after, it now states 3 months period following expiry, which might buy people who are really pushing it to the back end of the window a couple of days maybe.
Yeah, well, again, if February is in place, if it's a leap year, of course it can. And obviously in the summer months, it could give you an extra day because it's date to date. But yeah, that's for people who would want to operate in the margins. Obviously, the advice always is don't go for the margins because you may complicate your applications. Just always try to be within the first 60 days or what it will be the first 2 months before your TIE expires, so that you can renew. Just play it safe. Don't complicate your life. That would be it. But of course, buying a few days could be an advantage for some, but not that good of an advantage for others.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's always advisable. You know, don't push it to the limits if you don't have to, really. You know, so and then coming on to B. So this hasn't really changed, has it? So possess sufficient funds, financial means to cover their living and housing expenses, including where applicable those of their family, for the duration of the period corresponding to the renewal without the need to engage in any labour or professional activity established in Article 62.
Yeah.
So this hasn't changed, but what does change
is Article 62.
This is Article 62.
Yeah.
So what I have got here, if you want to know how much that is, then I have got another video. Check this video out, IPREM. Okay, but do you want to tell us more about Article 62, then, Kosta?
Well, it pretty much tells you about the financial criteria for the applications. So the biggest change that we noticed, and I mentioned to you, I think one of the first things that we spoke about was how to provide, what type of documents to provide for your initial visa. Again, this is initial stuff. We're
Yeah.
now talking about renewals, but it is about initial stuff. So I would be very curious to see how that would apply for renewals as well, because even though it's really recommended that you stick with putting your financials in a Spanish bank account to make the renewal very simple for all parties involved, your specialist, yourself, immigration, even though that's what's recommended, I understand, because we have had it more than once, that sometimes that's not possible for one or two reasons. So people want to stick with showing their money from outside. However, this is where the major change comes in. So if you want to show financial documents from a foreign bank institution for an initial request, there's the extra paragraph that we spoke about.
Yeah.
To me, it's a bit strange the way they want to structure this. I don't know who came up with this idea to put this as a text.
Well, it's not somebody who understands the documents people can get hold of.
Yeah, I can tell you for a fact, it's definitely not somebody from the field. Definitely not somebody.
It's not somebody, as we know, so if you work across the different provinces, that Valencia is completely different in some ways to what they request in other provinces. You'd think it'd be exactly the same for everywhere, but it's just not.
One would expect this to be the case, but unfortunately, it's just not.
It's not. And when you look at the which we will do more on the initial visa and what they're saying in Article 62, with crazy average bank account statements which don't exist in the UK. In fact, bank account statements are so hard to get off of in the first place in the UK, let alone crazy documents.
Absolutely crazy documents. I completely agree with you, because I think I mentioned the weirdest one. Your balance as of 31st of December of last year. I mean, if I am applying in October, why would the Spanish consulate or anyone want to see my balance as of the 31st of December of the previous year? Just
it's crazy. I mean, with the renewals, we've sort of found different ways. So to be honest, here in Malaga, they're really good, and this year, I'm not going to touch wood, touch everything, accepting funds in foreign accounts, and everything normally has to be translated, etc. We've actually been going in lately with just, if it's savings in a foreign account, that we've been going in with the last 3 months balances and keeping the 12 months on file and explaining in escrito that is, it's ridiculous to spend more money on translations because it's just duplicates. If you want us to, we quite happily will do. And normally that works. Things like premium bonds, believe it or not, have been accepted here in Malaga, but you would never get that in Almeria. It'd be like, forget it. And so, as we know, with the financials, if the funds, I'm sure when it happens to you, when you get a renewal case come across your desk and you see all the funds are in a Spanish bank, you just jump for joy and go, yay, this is going to be great. There's sufficient funds, or the pension's being paid into a Spanish bank account.
This is sometimes even when I speak to clients, when I am provided with exactly what you just said, I just tell them, well done. Because even if you think about it, imagine you are the person reviewing the file. When you see somebody renewing, and when you see that they have the minimum amount required, or over the minimum, or even the bulk of their savings, if you want, in Spain, you immediately think that this person or these people show their commitment to staying here. Even if you think it from that perspective, it just makes things very, very, very simple. Here in Valencia, they really are. I would say strict on you having the funds in Spain. Sometimes, on certain occasions, we have had situations in which that was not possible, which is completely understandable. And we've prepared escritos, similar to you, explain the situation, and they've gone through. But what we aim for almost always, and this is what I stress on every initial call I have for a non-lucrative visa renewal, is to do your maximum effort to put your savings or funds or whatever it is in the Spanish bank, because it makes life very simple, very easy, for everyone. As I said, for everyone involved in the process. The documents are in Spanish already. They come stamped from the bank, even though in some countries this is considered, extinct. So it's really simple. It's really nice, simple, and easy, and that's how you want to have it with immigration here.
Yeah, and I think sometimes as well, it's hard to explain to clients when you get a requerimiento. So say, for example, we've submitted documents which have been translated or something like that, and they just haven't accepted it. Most of the time, they don't send you a nice letter to say, we haven't accepted this bit, and this bit. They just say, prove that you can financially support yourself. And you've already submitted that documentation.
Yeah.
They don't say, we haven't accepted this, they haven't accepted that. They just say, prove it. So then you have to assume what they haven't accepted.
Yeah.
There's not. So I get questions sometimes where people say, well, if they don't accept this, then what they'll tell you, no. They literally cut and paste on the letter something that says, we don't say we don't accept this bank account because we can't see this or we can't see that or whatever. So that's why you have to do your troubleshooting beforehand, don't you? So we get it a lot with UK statements where they abbreviate people's names. So you have the initials. So it might say J.S. Smith.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, look, that's just not going to cut it. It's like, so that happens. But anyway, so in terms of the actual process, let's see in the initial visa what they're going to require. I don't think the estancias are going to be hopefully complicated. The whole idea was this makes it more simple. So hopefully they'll stay with the true we know.
Actually, to be absolutely honest with you, if there's one thing I'm very disappointed out of the entire renewal process, that's that you still have to request your initial non-lucrative visa from your country of origin. I would have loved to see a possibility for people to actually be able to request it while being in Spain, because there is a precedent. There are other types of visas that can be requested, the initial ones, not visas, but residence permits, because if you're here, you don't need a visa. If you're here already, you don't need a visa. You need to apply for a residence permit. For example, the golden visas or any entrepreneur law type visa, the digital nomad one being one of these. So I was really expecting to see at least something in that regard, but I'm guessing the next time they decide to make that big of a reform, they will include that as well.
No, don't say next time. I'm retiring on this reform. I'm 46 now. So let's say next time. That's it. Now I'm looking at this thinking they haven't changed it too much. This is a retirement plan now.
Since we started our business with Nelly, with KN Mobility Investments, when we started off, that very same summer there was a big change. I remember 2022 in August. It was the first big change. Then was the digital nomad one. And now this. So I think every year since we started, there's a big fuss about immigration that's happening, which is interesting to hear, because in the past, because I've been doing immigration for some years now, and in the past it was not that frequent. Those changes or modifications were not that frequent. Even if there were some changes, they didn't have that big of an impact, like the last three major ones.
I think that this one here will go more into detail, hopefully, in other podcasts, but I think there's a lot of opportunities to study it and other ways that maybe people can gain residency in the future. I think it's an interesting and a positive move.
Absolutely. Overall, the entire purpose of this change was to ease the procedures, to make it easy for family members, for work permits. So after reading it, I agree that some things have become more simple. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For your renewals, for example, that kind of helps a lot. Stimulates, especially for people working, people who are residing here with working contracts. It really helps everything. Helps, and it's on par with a lot of labor law changes that happened within the last few years, and the spirit is good. The spirit is there. So I really look forward to seeing how it's going to be in practice, really, with all the procedures.
Well, let's go back to the next point, which is point C, which says,
right, yeah.
And this is for me very short. Then let's see. It says, have maintained and continued to hold health insurance during the validity of the permit renewed. So basically, now we know that, I mean, they state here health insurance, but obviously that is covered by people who are on an S1 as well. Yep. So people who have social security healthcare are covered by the S1 program, which is probably a lot more of our demographic of clients than yours. You know, we've got lots of people on the S1 because we generally, our biggest demographic is retirees from the UK. To prove this, when you come to renewal, you have the initial certificate, which you can actually update online, can't you?
Of course, very simple, nice and easy.
Nice and easy. Get that out. We recently did one. So people, one big thing to explain about the S1 is when we're doing the renewals, people say, well, if it's been an S1 that we've registered, it's not a problem because we just update the certificate. But if it's somebody that we didn't do the initial visa for and the initial S1 registration, they'll send me through the registration at the healthcare, the card and everything like that. And really, none of those documents prove that you're still currently registered. It's only the certificate from the Social Security that states that you, and it has to be what they call actualizado, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, it has to be up to date. And then in terms of the health insurance, I think a really important thing to tell people is if you can switch providers, but you can never be without health insurance.
Exactly. And funny that you mention it. A lot of them, a lot of the cancellations and switching happen exactly in November, simply because, as you know, most of the private health insurances run out on the 31st of December. And if you want to switch, you have to advise them 1 month before. This month, we've had a few clients who mentioned this, wanted to switch, wanted me to give them other options. We do work with an amazing insurance broker that can give you more than one option, obviously. So just refer them to her, and so that she can sort everything out if need be. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's not this section C doesn't talk only about people with the private health insurances, but also S1 registrations, which for which once you request the up-to-date certificate, I think it's issued almost instantly.
Yeah, and of course there is. What we have sometimes is also people who start with private health insurance and then qualify for S1.
Yeah.
So we do the S1 registration. There's generally then this crossover period. And then when you are submitting your renewal, it's a good idea to actually show the two that there was a continuity in the insurance. So yeah, I mean, it's that hasn't really changed, but that doesn't mention anything about, you know, covered by state healthcare.
No, but I'm pretty convinced that the people at the subdelegaciones de gobierno, people reviewing the applications, would factor that in. I don't think it's going to be a practical issue at all.
Let's hope not. I hope that stays the same, but I don't think it's just strange. Immediately when I saw that, I was a bit worried because I was like, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on here? They've not mentioned anything about the S1, but I think having state healthcare is probably better than having private healthcare in their eyes. Maybe, you know, it's total cover. This is just a quick one. I don't get many of these, obviously, on the non-lucrative visa. We probably just do 1, maybe 2 a year. So D, have ensured the enrollment of minors under their care who are compulsory school age to stay in Spain. Do you get many minors on a non-lucrative visa up there?
Not many, but some. And it's actually very important when you talk about minors in this particular section. You should not forget that the minors that are covered in this particular section are the ones that are en edad de escolarización obligatoria, within the permanent, under the mandatory school age, which is between 6 and 16. So we have a lot of minors who are under 6 that don't fit this section, so it's pretty simple. And this is a lot of them are actually like this. But the ones that actually fit this one, it's the extra paperwork is pretty straightforward. More often than not, a lot of our clients that come here with their children under a non-lucrative visa enroll their children into the international schools.
Yeah.
And there's one or two around Valencia which are very famous. Obviously, all of these people need to renew their visas. So the principals or the administrative department of these schools have already prepared templates and just change the names and the NI numbers and the passport numbers of the kids and just send them to the parents when they have to renew the visas. So it's pretty straightforward, really. If it's a public school, it's different. If it's public school, it's a different process. And let's not forget, just like everything, it will depend on the province where you want to submit your application in. Some provinces will be happy with one document. Other provinces would insist that you get documents issued from the autonomous community. So it would really depend on where you are, if it's public or private school.
Yeah, I mean,
and Concertados as well, just not to offend people who have their kids in Concertados. It's also important that you keep that in mind.
It's tough to get kids into public school or Concertados straight away. Is actually quite hard. So we've had clients before who have come over, and I've said, look, immediately they said, well, we're going to enroll them in February, and I'm like, that may not happen.
Yeah,
it's different here. I mean, when I don't actually deal with the school paperwork. Lara does all of that, and I have to say, I don't know what it's like in Valencia, but it's hang on a minute. I have made me big. In Valencia, it's in Andalusia. Sorry, it's really good. It's all online. So we use our digital certificates, the Junta Andalusia platform. It didn't used to be like that. It's only been recently, since COVID, that it's been done. But obviously, the school placements are few and far between in certain areas. So, you can't just rock up and, I mean, the points to get into a public school. I mean, Lara, when we were getting my son into school, we moved to a certain area, and that area had 3 primary schools. And where we wanted our son to go didn't correspond to where we lived.
Yeah.
So Lara actually had to get a job in the nursery where he was. Right, they offered her a job, and they said, well, that's actually quite handy, because hang on a minute, how do we work this out? We get the points then. And then once he's in the school, then his sister, when she was born, could go as well. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was like
in Valencia. This used to be the case, but from this year on, there is no requirement of you're getting the points if the kid is in Valencia, and doesn't matter where in Valencia. Doesn't matter where the parents work, because in the past it was exactly like this. So you get the extra points if you're close to the work location of either parent or close to home. Now there is no such thing as this. So this actually presents a problem because there are a few very good concertados in Valencia, which most people know about. And because in the past you lived far away from them, or you didn't work nearby these concertados, you couldn't get your kid in. But now, when this requirement is done, everybody goes to that concertado. So the quota remains the same. So they get, I think they accept X amount, let's say it every year. But now there's twice the demand.
Right. Yeah.
And this is not, and the supply is just not meeting, at least in these particular concertados. And I know because this year we had a few cases, actually, not just one, but a few cases of EU citizens, residents here, our clients, who wanted to move their kids from the private schools to concertados or public schools. The process is online. Everything is done very simply. You don't necessarily need a digital certificate. The webpage of the Valencian Generalitat is actually pretty intuitive to operate with. So you can just do everything online. Just don't forget that there are deadlines, and these deadlines start around April, May, depending on school age and everything.
Which initially, if you're moving over and you're going to a private school, you're paying. So normally you just there's no
deadline.
So,
that's correct.
So that's
for
it.
Some parents, it's not just about the money. For some parents, it's just about the kids integrating into the Spanish society, because in those international schools, you can imagine that while you have the benefit of the language,
Yeah.
you have the disadvantage of Spanish, the other language, which I'm guessing the whole idea of moving here with kids is to integrate, and that would be more possible in either public schools or concept house.
Absolutely. Got brains like sponges, kids. So anyway, let's move on to letter E. Letter E. This was easy and have paid the fee for processing of the procedure. Yeah. So evidently, when you submit your application, you need to pay a fee to submit it. There's two fees when you're going through the renewal process. There's one which is to actually start the process with the subdelegación, which is 790.052, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then the actual TIE card is a 790.012. But whoever's doing that for you will definitely pay it for you and tell you how much that is. So we'll move on to the next one. Yes. And now this is the one which caused the biggest stir, didn't it? It was have resided in Spain in a real and effective manner for more than 183 days during the calendar year. Now, if you want to know why this caused a stir, first of all, I'm just going to show you this here. So I did a video on the 6-month rule abolished. It actually wasn't really the 6-month rule, but I found that was quite a good title for a YouTube video, and it did get me a load of hits. So if you want to know why we're talking about this 183-day rule being brought back in, watch that video. But let me just bring this back up again. Now, this rule here, this was abolished. No. Correct me. It was annulled. It was annulled due to a high court ruling, which means currently at the moment, in theory, there's no need to be 183 days in Spain to renew a temporary residency. Whereas this is now going to be brought back into play. Now, I have actually got my own theory as to why they've brought it back into play, and also, how is this going to affect people? So the first thing is the calendar year. So the calendar year, and they say natural year, that runs from the date your TIE is issued, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, if you think about it, yes, because that would determine when your effective residence in Spain starts.
So your effective residency in Spain starts at that point. Now, obviously, this has one of the implications of this is that at one point, because of now we're not tax advisors, so we're going to tell you to get tax advice if you need it. But at one point, whatever happens, if you are obliged to spend 183 days or more in Spain to maintain your temporary residency, by default, depending on when you move to Spain, you will always become a fiscal resident. Mm-hmm. Which means that most of the time it won't be your first renewal, but your second renewal, if you've got income, you may have to present your tax returns to prove that income and coming into Spain. So that's quite a biggie. And the other thing, which it seriously affects, is permanent residency at the end. Now, we had people questioning us saying, now they've annulled this law, can I basically get a non-lucrative visa and use it as I see fit to enter, not be a fiscal resident, come in and out, blah, 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 blah. Now, here at Upsticks, we said, look, we really, deal with people who are going to be living here full time. It's easier to manage, and we like to be the people through the 5-year process to getting permanent residency. But obviously, if you're planning on getting permanent residency, this wouldn't bother you anyway, would it?
Absolutely right. Yep.
So this will be because if you want to get permanent residency, you can only have been out of Spain for 10 months in the first 5 years, which averages to 2 months every year, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. On average.
So basically, that was that was quite a biggie that they brought back in. Now I think it makes more sense because basically they can control you fiscally if it's 183 days.
Yep.
And I personally think you should stay in Spain and pay your taxes if you're a resident here anyway.
Absolutely, completely agree. And I also believe that this is the entire reason for them to implement this and to put this specific wording in, simply because for taxes, they want to make you pay your taxes, as you should, because that's the proper way to do things.
Yes, it certainly is. And that brings me on to basically my last point of the day, which, do you know what? I can't find the screenshot anywhere that I did of it, but never mind, it doesn't matter. Which was now the renewal periods. So the big news was also that people will only have to renew. Well, it's the same. It hasn't changed, has it?
The renewal periods?
So you renew after 2 years. There's big talk about it.
Yeah.
Being renewed for 4 years at the end now. I did have a screenshot prepared, which I've completely lost on this new platform, but never mind. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot in the draft law. It said that there's a possibility, well, it said written in the draft law that renewal will be at the end of the first year for 4 years. Mm-hmm. Personally, and I don't know about you, I couldn't see that happening with the NLV. I can with others, and it has done, hasn't it, with other residencies or platforms, but I couldn't see it with the NLV, and I wasn't too vocal on YouTube about it because there's no control over whether you're working or not. There's no control over fiscal. There's no control whether you're maintaining the finances that you presented. And so it would have meant probably people having this huge liability at the end of the first year if they're working from savings. But then how does immigration know when you get to that 5-year point that you haven't just blown it all, the day after you got your approval?
Yeah, I completely agree. To me, when I first heard the rumors about, the non-lucrative visa going to, move to a 4-year renewal period, I was also very surprised because, as you well know, the financial requirements for the renewal differ from province to province. So what if one province wants to ask you for the full 4 years? And what if you're not one, but you're a family of 2 or 3? So we're talking about crazy amounts that you have to show in order to renew your visa, which, given that you're not working and you can't work because you're on a non-lucrative, people wouldn't be able to provide, that most people wouldn't be able to provide.
No, and plus you get people's changing circumstances. So we always work on the basis that savings is double for the 2-year renewal. Mm-hmm. Passive recurring income is considered double for the 2 years. So if it's 20 grand a year, it's considered 40. You can top it up with the savings. Yeah. But then sometimes you get these complicated situations where people have savings, especially in our circumstances with the clients that we're dealing with. They start with savings and they have pensions kicking in.
Yeah.
Or, for example, they may have a rental kicking in. Mm-hmm. So we've had that before, and that all has to be explained. And if it was going to be 4 years, I mean, even in an ideal circumstance where you've got a client and they're earning more passive income pensions of more than 36,000 euros a year, and they've been having that pension for more than a year, you can prove it's recurring annually, that's fine. But there's very, very few cases that people can structure that, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like in practice, you would see a little bit of everything, but this particular scenario that you described is, I wouldn't say it's an exception, but it's a very low percent of people who are actually able to provide all that. The more common case, I would say, even with us, is people coming in with savings, and around the 2nd, 3rd year, they qualify for their state pension. So they start earning pensions, and obviously at that point we start talking about how can we use the pension for the next renewal, about the S1s. Usually this is around the time that we start talking about these things. And I would say overall for the financials, just really the biggest relief I saw was that the renewal will remain for 2 years, and it won't force people to start scratching their heads on how to best approach this, the financial requirements for the full 4 years.
Yeah. No, it was great news, and I think it's good news for everybody who's trying to plan moving over in the future. So we know we quite often talk to our clients 2 or 3 years beforehand, and now we know we don't expect there to be any huge reforms now to the non-lucrative visa renewals for a while.
Personally, I don't think so. I still hope that they make it possible for you to request it while being in Spain, the initial one. And I'm not talking about switching to a non-lucrative while you have another residence in Spain, because this is possible. I'm talking about you coming in, for example, from the UK, hopping on the plane with your criminal background check and with all the rest of the paperwork needed, and arrive in Spain, submit the initial application online. And that's not generally accepted. So I would wish that if there is a change, that this would be the next change.
I'll tell you what, I bet the BLS offices would have some bit to say against that, though. They've got to keep on earning their £14.55.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I understand. I mean, it may ruin the business for BLS, for example, or other intermediaries that operate in these countries. But on the other hand, for places where there is no BLS that handles non-lucrative visas, because usually BLS handles student visas, not just for Spain, but also for other countries. For places where you would have to go to the consulate to apply for your LLV, this would just remove a lot of cases and stress from these people working at the consulate, and would unclog maybe some backlogs that they have there.
Yeah, and I have to say at this point, and for people who are watching, that Kosta has managed quite a few of our stage ones from around the world. So a lot of our stage ones are mainly come from the UK, France. We've done New Zealand as well, but Kosta's managed the US and Canada, where it's just a different ball game. Because people live thousands of miles away from the consulate. From the consulate or the BLS office they have to go to. The requirements are completely different. So we always break down. That's how we work together quite a bit. We break down stage 1 and stage 2, because Kosta can complete stage 1 and stage 2. We can complete stage 1 and stage 2. We're always like this. Who's going to do what at this point? And Kosta's brilliant at other areas of the world. And that's what you're referring to, because, if you're trying to go and get a non-lucrative visa from someone from Qatar, for example, if you could do it online, or even just, it's just the case of getting the documents presented. So, we're in a luxurious position with the UK clients where, and I always say to our clients, now, you don't realize how lucky you are at the moment, because
I have no idea.
2 years ago,
really have no idea.
Even 2 years ago, the UK was like documents expiring before you could get an appointment. The consulate wouldn't respond. There was no calendar platform. There was nothing. And now we have to put up with this stupid booking system, which takes half an hour, but you can get an appointment the very next day. This is like, if you'd have asked Chris 3 years ago what he would have dreamed of, that would have been it, because I would have wanted that booking system. But obviously, in other areas that you're dealing with, it's exactly the same as we were 3 years ago, or worse.
Oh, believe me, that like the people coming in from the UK, it's a walk in the park compared to other consulates from where a lot of people actually move into Spain.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, especially from the US, the thing I like about the Spanish consulates in the US, with 1 or 2 exceptions, is that the consulates there are pretty open, pretty flexible. Again, with certain exceptions, towards financial requirements, background checks, and they really, because of one fact. The UK has been out of the EU for what, 4 years?
Yeah.
And the US has never been in the EU. So the US citizens have always applied for a non-lucrative visa.
Yeah.
Always. So the people there are a lot more familiar, I would say, with the process, and it's just better organized. And people working in the consulates have made certain changes. For example, they extended the validity of background checks certain consulates, because they noticed the backlog from the Department of Department of State in the US. So it kind of make things a lot easy, but it's more fluid because it's a machine that started rolling many years ago. So they learned to adapt with the changes, which I really respect. But that's a good example. The bad examples are Southeast Asia, with a few exceptions, and obviously the biggest issues that we've had were in India with the consulate in New Delhi. Mumbai is okay, but New Delhi is good. I would actually say I've seen worse from. I mean, it's just bad. It's just bad. I don't wanna extend it too much. It's just pretty bad. And funny thing is, it has to do with the consul there, who used to be the consul in the Spanish consulate in Washington, which many years ago used to be one of the not so good ones. So it's just strange.
Yeah, that's where the online thing would be good. But anyway, let's hope that happens. I would love even just a better platform to present the documents.
Yeah,
that's what I would love, because ultimately we're still sending clients the BLS. And normally it's very good. We always send them with we try and send them with our folders, right? Mm-hmm. So they recognise that everything's in order. We've had lots of good. We do that at the Estancias as well. But yeah. Anyway, well, look, I think that's about it for the renewals. Kosta, thank you so much for doing this with me, and sorry for the technical issues. I think I more or less got around it, but I will get better and learn more on the platform.
Well, thank you for having me here. It was really a pleasure. I think we had a very nice conversation. Of course, we went on our ventures as we usually do every time we speak. There's no way around it. We have to go ahead and explain separate side stuff. Simply because
I got accused on my last video. I did a video about it, and I said, it'd be really cool. It got to 12,000 hits, so I don't mind, but it'd be really cool to try and explain to people how we got to where we are now. What's happened. So So I waffled on for like 10 minutes, right, on this video. This is how we got. And then right at the end, I just said about it's good news about the 4-year renewal not happening. It's 2 years. And I got so many comments on there. Oh, you waffle on, just get to the point. All this stuff but I don't really care, to be honest.
You shouldn't, because when you do this with passion, and you really care about stuff, this is the result. And this should be an indicator that you actually care about presenting the right information in the right way. People who work what we work, myself included, when I watched that video, I completely understood. But look, it is what it is. You shouldn't be sorry about it. If it's your passion, show it, right?
That's it. And I thought people will be really interested in that.
Yeah.
I keep seeing all these videos going, this has been done and that's been done, but no one explained why. And I thought, maybe people want to know why. But I got some positive comments on there as well. But it was quite funny seeing that. So, but anyway, Kosta, listen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and we'll definitely do some more in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
And hopefully, I will get you get up to see you again soon. So,
well, you're always welcome. You know that.
All right, and cheers, mate. We'll see you soon.
All right, cheers.
I cut him off quite quickly there. Also, listen, thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you are looking at getting a non-lucrative visa or renewing your non-lucrative visa, EU residency, EU family residency, just check out our website, www.upsticks.es, book a call with us, and hopefully we can help you. And we've got more podcasts coming up with people in the future. So subscribe and like.